right, next one I'm going to go over here. Christmas movies are canceled due to the patriarchy.
Just makes common sense.
It's common sense, all these great, wonderful, traditional Christmas movies, they need to go away because somehow they're the patriarchy. I used one of my favorite Christmas movies is Bad Santa. I'm relating more and more to Bad Santa every year. I forget what his name was in the movie. I forget, but I'm relating more and more to him every day. So we have here from the New York Post, woke wannabe film critics cancel Christmas classics over, quote, toxic masculinity. Here's what I find interesting is that anything that is not pro-women and advancing women ahead of men, anything that is not even things that are desirable in many cases by women are being called out for being toxic. And it's gotten to the point now, again, where you just kind of hang back a little bit and go, this is insane. They say a bah humbug, woke wannabe critics are attempting to cancel some of the most beloved holiday films in history, calling out problematic plot lines and characters in movies such as Love Actually from 2003 and The Holiday from 2006. While many Americans find comfort in reruns of these films, some Scrooge-like viewers claim the Christmas classics should be thrown out like an unwanted gift. One of the things that I enjoy about this timeline is what happens is there's something that I think everybody can agree upon, or most people can agree upon. Although in recent times that I'm starting to question some of those. But you can say, hey, women should be able to work. And guys are like, yeah, if they want to work, they can work. Men should be able to stay home and be house husbands if they want to. Okay, yeah, sure. Like, we're fine with that. And they kind of find this is where the term slippery slope comes from. And this is what happened, when I was much younger. It was, hey, gay people would like to get married. And a lot of conservatives were like, no. This is, the Bible states man and woman and etc. And they said, no, we're not okay with this. And it's a slippery slope. And I'm a very liberal, open-minded person, a true liberal, not a crazy lefty liberal. And I said, you know what? Let them suffer like the rest of us. If they want to get married and get divorced and lose half their crap and get stuck with one person for the rest of their lives, let them. But you know what? Then the slippery slope started to happen, which is they want more and they want more and they want more, to the point now where women are marrying their dog. I did a story on that. Men are marrying dolls. I did a story on that one. Where we've kind of gone a little bit off the. Well, the same thing happens with these movies where they say, hey, we just say this is. I don't know, this is kind of patriarch or this is kind of, and many normal people be like, yeah, I can see it a little bit, but they just keep pushing. And what they're eventually going to do is what they've done, which is go to such an absurd degree that even people that were kind of like, yeah, all right, I see some of your points. I'm okay with that. Now, even those people are like, you guys are crazy. Like, you've just fallen. It's not a slippery slope. It's a cliff. You guys just went off the cliff and you've gone crazy. They say it's not just those relatively recent holiday films that are attracting the ire of the politically correct users on Twitter. Movies made as far back as the 1940s are also being targeted by the Twitterverse for the isms and misogyny, about race and misogyny. Here are 5 Christmas movies and the reasons why woke critics say they should be all placed on Santa's naughty list. Here's something, again, that I think happens, and this is part of that slippery slope and where people have lost the plot. If you can look at a time and you can look at movies where someone may have worn blackface, or you can look at movies where minorities weren't represented very well, and you watch that movie and you can turn to younger generations and say, do you see how badly they got this wrong? Do you see how poorly other people were treated? Do you see how this can look? And do you see how unfair this was? It can be a teaching moment for young people. And for those of us that are older, we look at it and we say, man, that was What a crazy time it was back then. Like this, we've come so far from these bad times that we used to be in. But when you erase all of that, you pretend like it never existed. You pretend like these bad things didn't actually happen. And then you don't have a reference to anymore. And, you know, there's a meme that's kind of gone around that I saw that I thought was really interesting. And it had a black and white picture. And over top of it, over top of a water fountain, it said coloreds only. And that's when they used to segregate not only the school, but they segregated bathrooms, they segregated lunch counters, they segregated water fountains. These were bad things. They're in an embarrassing time in our history. Well, next to that photo, they had a photo that was taken from a university or a campus. And it was over and I kid you not, over a water fountain. And this is a real photo. It wasn't Photoshopped because I read the article attached with it. And it said people of color only. And it had a water fountain. The difference is what they're trying to say is back then, quote, colored people, that they should not use the one water fountain that the whites use because we don't want it, contaminated, or they don't want to get germs because colored people were less than. Okay, and that's kind of the way they viewed it. Bad times, like not a good part of our history. Well, coming forward now, what they're saying is, well, this is for colored people only, or people of color only, because we don't want whites to contaminate their stuff. And you know, whites are the bad people now, and that people of color should have their own so they don't have to intermingle with white. It's still segregation. It's still, whether you believe that you're less than or greater than or whatever, you're still judging people's value based on the color of their skin, period. This is wrong. When you do things like these movies, and they're talking about, again, where they want to get rid of movies because they portrayed anything in a bad light, what you're doing is you're saying, we wish this never existed, but you're going to end up doing the same thing again. Those that do not learn from history repeat it. So here they say, let's see, The Holiday. In the 15 years since its release, The Holiday has become a beloved Christmas classic. I've never heard of it nor watched it. Currently streaming on Netflix, the Nancy Meyers rom-com has officially entered the holiday canon, according to Parade. And while many love the film for its leading ladies, Cameron Diaz and Kate Winslet, it's the lecherous male characters that leave some armchair critics calling for its cancellation. She was really, really attractive in The Mask. I think that's the first movie she was in. Cameron Diaz was very pretty in that movie. I guess I'm misogynistic for saying that. Jude Law plays Graham, a widowed book editor who drunkenly shows up at a house being rented by Diaz's character, Amanda Woods. The pair proceed to have sex, an act some Twitter users says seems icky and inappropriate. I would agree with them, and let me tell you why. Because he showed up to her house and he was drunk, but she wasn't. So she took advantage of him, and that's icky and inappropriate. Oh, wait, that's maybe not the point they were, I guess, because he showed up drunk, he's icky and inappropriate? No, that's not how that works. No, he wasn't able to consent because he had alcohol, but I don't think she did. At least they don't say that she did here. So, Graham, you see how crazy this gets, right? Graham later cautions Amanda, I tend to hurt women simply by being myself, adding that he has a classic male problem of no follow-through. Okay. I've actually probably said that a time or two in my life in my 20s when I was dating and women wanted to date seriously, and I'm like, no, I tend to hurt people just by being myself. I didn't phrase it that way, but I'd be like, I'm not good for relationships. I'm probably not the person you should be dating. And he says, I have a classic male problem of no follow-through, which, okay, that's being pretty open. He said, unfortunately, I have realized Jude Law in The Holiday as an F-boy, one critic stated. Okay, and they exist. Just go on Twitter. But you want to cancel the movie because of that? I think women would like to see him acting like that so they could be like, hey, maybe that's a dude I need to avoid. Again, could be a learning moment. Meanwhile, Jack Black's character, Miles, has also been criticized for making moves on Winslet's emotionally vulnerable character, Iris. Jack Black's charming character behaves like a dangerous sociopath throughout. It's a film about toxic masculinity that doesn't know it's a film about toxic masculinity. And they don't give, I haven't seen this, but maybe she's had a bad breakup. I'm guessing here because they're saying that she's emotionally vulnerable. So maybe she's had a bad breakup and he's like, he's charming to her and he's like, I'll be a nice guy to you. And he moves in on her. Okay, that happens a lot in real life too. And if you watch that and you say, well, that's kind of creepy, learning moment. Although I have a feeling it's probably not an actual creepy learning moment. From It's a Wonderful Life, it's not just the holiday that purportedly features problematic men. Frank Capra's Christmas classic, It's a Wonderful Life, is also being targeted by viewers who accuse Jimmy Stewart's character of exhibiting misogynistic behavior. The movie revolves around protagonist George Bailey, a lone banker contemplating ending himself on the eve of Christmas. However, the film highlights how Bailey's life is worth living, as his kind heart and good deeds have subtly influenced the lives of many in the town of Bedford Falls. Boy, that sounds really misogynistic, doesn't it? A guy that helps out his town and is nice to everybody, but he's thinking of offing himself? But skeptics say not so fast. George Bailey was an emotionally abusive and manipulative misogynist, wrote one naysayer, appearing to reference a scene where George yells at his wife Mary. Okay, because men shouldn't yell at women and women shouldn't yell at men. Now, I might say you shouldn't, but you're going to if you're in any type of relationship. But these are also the people that go nuts on you, and they're the ones that rage on you on Twitter. But they're also going to tell you, don't yell at people. He yelled at somebody. That's bad. In a follow-up scene, George grabs his spouse and kisses her without consent. Can you imagine sneaking up behind your girlfriend or your wife and spinning her around and giving her a dip and a big kiss, being like, oh, babe, I love you so much. And she starts screaming, "Ree! I did not consent to that." These people don't have relationships. These people do not have real friends. They don't date normal people. No one's going to be outraged about that. Can you imagine your girlfriend coming in and yanking your pants down and being like, oh, I'm going to do you good, baby. And you're, help. I did not consent to you pulling down my pants and taking advantage of me. These people are so butthurt. They say the scene in It's a Wonderful Life is an example of both a man imposing himself and the women deciding to give in to him rather than to resist further. One outraged viewer posted, maybe she gave in to him because she's like, wow, he desires me and he just took me in his arms and kissed me and that's kind of hot. So I'm going to give in to that. And they're saying, no, he should resist further. These are people the people that are arguing about this stuff will never find happiness in their life. They just never will. They're going to be miserable, and they're going to be angry at everyone forever. Don't be that person. They're calling out for a lack of diversity in the 1946 flick. Here's the thing. It was made in 1946, okay? There are towns that were not very populated with minorities. I grew up in one of them. I grew up in upstate New York, snow country. We weren't an extremely diverse. We maybe had out of a graduating class of like 200 people, I think I maybe could have counted on one or two hands the number of minorities that were there. It's just the area that we grew up in. It was kind of a steel glass town area, and not a lot of people moved there. Most people that took jobs in the companies that were there grew up into them. Because my father was a steel worker, or my father was a glass maker, and they just kind of grew into them. There was no reason for someone to move there. So the town stayed pretty isolated. But again, the Santa Claus. Oh, this one's a good one. The Santa Claus. That's box office smash hit back in 1994, grossed almost $200 million, and spawning 2 sequels. But some viewers say the film hasn't aged well in the 27 years since release and have broadened it as fat phobic. This is Tim Allen, who I guess has to become Santa or something. And so he keeps gaining weight and becoming fat. So he's more like Santa, and his beard. I do remember seeing clips of this. I don't think I've ever watched the whole thing. I remember seeing clips where he shaves and then he wakes up the next morning and the beard is back no matter what he tries to do. Like, it's forcing him to become Santa. But they're saying it's fat phobic because Santa's fat, I guess. Tim Allen plays a toy salesman, Scott Calvin, who assumes the duties of Santa Claus and begins to pile on the pounds in order to resemble him. The sudden weight gain prompts several fat jokes, which are far from politically correct in today's Hollywood. Well, I forgot about all that super fat phobic S in the Santa Claus Disney movement. Damn it. A disappointed viewer wrote after a rewatch last week. Someone else says, oh gosh, I haven't seen it since I was a kid. I was looking forward to rewatching it, but I don't think I could deal with that right now. Thanks for the heads up. An ally responded. Again, these people must find misery and ways to virtue signal in everything they do. If the internet didn't exist, let me go out on a limb here. If the internet didn't exist where they could virtue signal to all of their ilk, and they saw this movie, they'd probably watch it and have a laugh. I think they'd enjoy it. But by taking a moment to be able to read about it on the internet and virtue signaled everybody else, that's what they're going to do. Now, they may have said, oh, I'm so disappointed and this is so fat phobic, but there's part of me that guesses that more than likely they probably still watched it anyway and laughed and enjoyed it. For those of you on the podcast listening to this, when you hear those little blanks, I'm muting myself because I'm doing this long form stuff and my mouth dries out. And a couple people complain that listening to me swallow liquid apparently is the worst thing ever. So I'm going to mute myself when I drink my coffee. They say Jingle All the Way. Now, this was a bad movie. It was bad. It was like Sinbad, the comic, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Not a great movie, but I could see younger kids enjoying it, or maybe the mentally challenged. They say Jingle All the Way, like Santa Claus, Jingle All the Way became a 90s Christmas classic, but woke critics say problematic characters and themes ruin a nostalgic rewatch. The 1996 film sees Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sinbad play rival characters desperately trying to purchase a Turbo Man action figure for their respective sons for Christmas. The relentless focus on capitalism has turned some woke viewers off, with one saying, rum-soaked viewing of Jingle All the Way, and now, gang, this is deeply problematic S-fest about late capitalism. That person said, tweeting on their iPhone while watching the movie on a big screen TV being streamed over the internet off their computer and Wi-Fi while eating, foods from California shipped in from Mexico or something, and using their glasses that were probably where the lenses were cut in China. Like, everything is capitalism. If you buy something, that's capitalism. And I love these people that post, and they probably made that post from their iPhone or their Apple laptop. Late capitalism. Shut up. These people that don't want a capitalist society, you notice none of them get so upset they actually jump on a boat and sail over to Cuba. They don't jump on a plane, fly over to Vietnam, to northern Vietnam. They don't go over to China. They don't go to any of these socialist communist countries. You are free to leave at any moment. You're free to leave at any moment. So instead of trying to wrap society to your weirdo views, maybe let capitalism and our society that has worked beautifully for hundreds of years, with issues, but pretty damn well for hundreds of years, how about you shut up about that? And if you don't like it, you leave. Because whether it's women or minorities or anybody else, there's a whole lot of them that have become extremely rich from capitalism. I mean, just look at all the music artists and rappers and actors and everybody else, football players, basketball players. That's all capitalism. That's people buying tickets. You want to really have a good society? Capitalism's the way to go. And they say also that Ted, the Ted character played by Phil Hartman is creepy. And that because he flirts with Liz, that's bad. And then they have Love Actually. You get the point. I'm not going to read down through the last one. And again, 243 like this article, finding that it's funny. 60 people say it's top notch. So I think most people would agree that, these people that want to cancel everything, these people that want to be angry at the world, the problem with the cancel culture and the victim mentality and the internet nowadays is those that scream the loudest get the most attention. And it's really hard work to go to a gym and have a great physique and stand up there and pose and have people go, wow, dude, you look great, or men or women, whoever. Having people say, wow, you look great, and wow, that's amazing, and good for you. That takes hard work. What doesn't take hard work is for someone to come up and then take that same post and say, you're fat shaming, and you're just because you have good genetics, you're lucky and you can look really good, but you're really shaming all these other people. And then people that are also not in shape and feel like they're being held back go, oh, stunning and brave, you're exactly right. We agree with you. One person worked really hard to get the validation. The other person had the victim mentality to get the validation. And that person got almost as much, or in some cases more praise than the original person that worked really hard for the validation or for the praise. And so now it's a race to the bottom. Who can complain the most? Who can cry the most? Who can whine the most? Who can pay attention to me and look at me? People are against me. It's a race to the bottom. And this is the kind of stuff you're going to get as long as we keep chasing that trend.